Hey there, welcome to Navigating the Shift. Annabelle and Sarah here with a few timely topics and some timeless ones as well. We should get stuck in, because the last two videos were quite long, and I did notice on the YouTube channel that, you look at the numbers and they go up and then they go back down again. So I'll just put up on the screen here the last two videos that we did. Look at this. So you can see that I actually started watching the bottom one, but it says one view, and that had a lot more than that a day ago. And Sarah, you said that you were looking at it as well.
I saw the whole thing.
So that proves to you that these bastards are dropping the numbers. So just ignore the numbers, although it looks like we have a puny audience with no subscribers, that we understand how this works now.
I've seen it on Twitter too.
Mm-hmm.
It says, oh, they cut all these subscribers. You've only got 700 or something. And then I accidentally tweeted a like on mine with one of my tweets, which I don't usually do, just like in a line. So I went and checked, because when I did that, I clicked the heart and it went 29 and then 1. So I went through a bunch of my tweets and it did the same thing, where it would be at least in the teens, if not the 20s and then 30s, and then dropped down to 5, right away. Yeah. And then they took the hearts off my tweets for a while until I figured that out and talked about it. And then they put those silly deep state.
So they put your hearts back on again, did they?
Back on. They aren't on. They're still off on that group of tweets, but not on after that. Oh, I don't get any notifications.
Oh, okay. So you just have to keep checking.
Only a few people who I've connected with a lot and I've had lots of conversations with, I'll see them, for instance, liking a reply to one of my tweets. And I never got a notification of the reply. And other people have talked about that. So they're doing all kinds of silly things to try to discourage us, but we just aren't locked into the numbers. That's right. So I watched a video today of 107. Whoever he is, his voice sounds like an actor that I have in my mind, but I can't come up with his name. He was on some TV series a while back, and he's very conservative, pro-Trump. That's what his voice sounds like, but who knows? But what he was talking about was something that I heard before, but I'd forgotten, which is that some time ago, an organization paid for a venue and those fences they put up for traffic and everything for an inauguration between March 4th and 6th of this year.
Oh, that's not far away. It's the 4th here in Australia already, so that's tomorrow for you.
Yeah, and the MSM is going, oh, these QAnon people are saying that they're going to come here and do things, so we need more National Guard. And then I didn't watch all of it because, quite frankly, I was a little disappointed of Trump's CPAC conversation. So just in case you don't know, it's Conservative Political Action Committee. And one thing he said was he's not starting a new party. That's fake news. That's fine. But one thing, I thought he looked really young. I thought, man, did they put him in a med bed again? Remember when he went to the hospital supposedly for COVID and came out like, I feel 20 years younger. And immediately, well, before that, as soon as I knew they took him to the hospital, I saw him going off planet. So interesting. So he looked like that guy, that young guy who felt 20 years younger. And he just did the same old stuff. He bashed Biden a little bit and told, here's what we did. And we brought these numbers up. And then the COVID knocked it down and we got the economy back. And I was kind of disappointed that it was like nothing new. So I watched one of those Tarot by Janine's, and it might have been, she's awesome, by the way. That's on YouTube.
She is great.
Janine. People send her suggestions or she finds things and does tarot readings on them and feels very accurate to me. So somebody had said to her, or several people had emailed her and said, that wasn't the real Trump. He was over an hour late or something. And we want to find out, because that didn't feel like the same guy. And she's like, I felt like the same guy to me, although he looked a little younger, but let's see what the cards say, right? And she was like, oh, that wasn't him. That was one of his doubles. Oh, he's really good. And then she looked at some of the other cards, and then she, does some more stuff on the spread. And she said, looks like there was some kind of security threat, and they had to pull the real Trump out and put in this guy. And then she also looked at the cards and said, oh, there was more stuff he was going to say, but the duplicate didn't have that information. It needed to come from the real guy. And that's why it was a kind of a disappointing speech, I thought. And some other people did too. But I just thought it was so interesting that a lot of people did, pushing the V cure. And she did a spread on that as well. And she was kind of surprised. She was like, oh, looks like some of them are good. They actually are positive for your health, and some of them are bad.
Right.
And she said, for her personally, and I agree, I'm still not going to get it. And then, of course, we both know, bottom line is, your soul decides when you leave this planet. Even though it could look like you've been suicided or whatever, it's still a soul agreement. And if you're here, like all of us are, to go through this wonderful transformation of the planet, to support it, to be the ones that anchor the light and the high frequency, no matter what you stick in your body, they're not going to take you out. No matter how much radiation they dump on me, I'm still here. It's and when you're running high frequencies, then high doses of frequencies don't affect you as much, right? So
right. I was wondering,
not to worry.
When we were talking about the more beneficial ones, that when he came out of hospital for 3 days later, he said he'd had Regeneron, and that is a company. It's not actually the brand of a the brand of a product. It is a company, but they work on genetic stuff, but in terms, so they say, of mending your DNA. So that's a possibility. And the other one was just the one that I'm just popping up on the screen now, starting with an H, that is because it's antiparasitic, that it can knock off all sorts of problems, and that it's possible the way we look at illness in the body may be not quite accurate, and that there are actually quite a lot of different types of parasites that can be used to add different types of illness, like even making your eyesight bad, or just slowly age you, maybe possibly through those things. Yeah.
And since that H thing is an antiparasitic, can work wonders.
Maybe.
So just more, world news. I watched part of the Christopher Wray interview, but I watched an X22 report and said, like, okay, I don't want to watch the whole thing. This is boring. What did you put up, right? That makes more sense. And what he was talking about is that one thing Christopher Wray said, there is no evidence that there were fake Trump supporters at the Capitol riot. And of course, we know there was that guy, John Sullivan, who was definitely not a Trump supporter, who was there encouraging people and filming, and got paid $35,000 each from CNN and CBC or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Antifa man.
So he said he did not call, specifically, he didn't call Antifa, he didn't call Proud Boys, he didn't call anybody there to domestic terrorists. But he did say, he said there were three groups. One group was peaceful. They were just, peaceful, whatever. There was another group that kind of got caught up with it, that are Trump's words, but whatever, he didn't say what they were, but they didn't enter the building, or I think is what he said. But then there was this other group that planned ahead. The bombs were put out the night before, and they had equipment ready and stuff like that. So he just mentioned those three groups. He didn't say which side they were on, but he did say the event was domestic terrorism, and domestic terrorism has no place in the U.S.
Okay.
X22 went back to a 17 post that mentioned, somebody asked, is Ray a sleeper? And the response was kind of vague, you will find out. I don't remember exactly. So he could be a sleeper for the dark. He could be a sleeper for the light. So it could be that he's kind of setting it up to open up to the world the domestic terrorists are not the Trump supporters, right. and not Antifa. There's somebody else. So I thought that was just kind of interesting for politics.
So he didn't mention the group that stole the laptops.
Now, I don't know. Like I said, I only watched a few minutes of it. Did you watch more?
No, I didn't know about it because I was busy yesterday. And also the fact that Pelosi was in charge of all the police around the Capitol.
Yeah.
It was her responsibility. And then we've got footage even on our own videos here of them just standing back, opening the doors, letting them in.
And evidently Trump or his administration offered them more protection because they got a heads up that something was going to go down. And the head of Capitol Police said, no, we don't like the optics for that, how that will look. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. How does it look to have razor wire top fences all the way around the Capitol?
Exactly. That's still there.
Not a very good optic. Yeah, it's still there.
Very curious. Oh, well, we'll keep watching that one.
Yeah, something's going to happen soon. You know, I'm feeling it coming. Last week, we looked at the energy of what's coming up for maybe the 24th or the 23rd of March, like really soon. At the beginning of the year, I got a hit on it. So many other people across the social media have been looking at that date astrologically and all of this stuff. And we got, you said relief. And I was like, yeah, relief. And it reminded me of going into my local grocery store and having the barricades and the posts and the TV thing letting you know when to go into your assigned check stand and all that gone. So we said, oh, it looks like the COVID stuff's going to start to relieve. And at this point, there are now 4 states in the U.S. that have absolutely no restrictions. Business is 100% open, no masks, nothing. And wow. I think it's going to be a snowball effect. So I think we have a lot of relief to look forward to, and relief on COVID and just the whole pressure all around, because it's very intense, the whole thing. But the other thing that's this relief, this getting so close to this relief, it makes me think of like a little kid that's got their knees all scuffed up and they're scabby, you know, at school or whatever, and they're fine, they're running around, they're having a time. They get home and they see their mom and it's, you know, it's like we see
finally being honest.
Yeah, it's like I'm home, I'm with safety, I can let this out now. Right. And we're getting so close to home. On social media, I've seen some people say, what's going on? I miss my parents, or I just want to go home, I can't be here any longer.
Oh wow.
And things like, I think I'm feeling some kind of weird form of depression, and I've dealt with depression my whole life, and this isn't what that feels like, but it's something, and I just don't think I can do it any longer. Oh. And then my experience was that I had that. It was like, I could just sit. I was just such a blob, and my stomach is like, it's 4 or 5 in the afternoon. My stomach is going, I'm eating myself in here. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get up and get food. I don't care. It won't taste good anyway. And I'm like, oh, that's starting to really hurt. I should get up. It's like I had to draw from willpower to stand up and just like walk into the kitchen and get something to eat. And I didn't make a gourmet meal. I can't even remember what I made. It was like a glass of kefir or something, you know? And then when I sat back down with it, it was like, drink. Okay, it doesn't hurt anymore. I can't lift that up again.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I mean, the energy's so low and sleeping so long. And I started getting kind of worried about it because it was several days. So in sort of a desperate moment, I said, you guys got to help me. What's going on with this? And the answer I got back was your caterpillar. Goo. So for those of you who don't know, caterpillars go into their little chrysalis and then everything dissolves into goo and then reforms into your butterfly. And the other part of what I've been feeling and I've seen on social media is like, I don't even feel like me. I don't know who this person is. I'm not me. I don't know what this is. It's also like that heavy energy of like, almost, it's like being depressed, but not depressed, and having zero energy, no interest in food. And I just started seeing people putting posts all over social media. It was like, what's going on? I have no energy. I don't care about anything. I can't stand food. I don't want to move. So
is it the reforming? Reforming, yeah. A new metamorphosis is what we're perhaps going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the message was just be okay with it. It's not forever. It's uncomfortable. It hurts. Yes. And of course, along my Twitter timeline comes a little graphic of, the caterpillar is like, I'm eating leaves, I'm happy. And then, oh, maybe I'll climb up in this tree and hang. And then he's in the thing. He's like, motherfucker, this hurts so bad.
Oh.
And he's like, oh, I've got wings. He's like, oh, look at me. It's so beautiful, and I was like, bingo, there's confirmation. So the message I got was just try to be comfortable as you can, accept the goo process, and to focus your attention on growing your wings, whatever that means to you. You say, you know what, this is miserable, but I'm working on my wings.
And you can only work on those wings when you tune into your heart as to what you're meant to be doing. You got to stop being logical. This will earn me more money. This will get me more prestige. This will get me in with a group that I want to be working with. Or this was worth no money. I shouldn't be doing it. Just listen inside as to what you should be doing.
Exactly.
Even if it makes no logical sense, just whatever brings you joy.
And you don't even need to know the answer logically of what your wings represent. It's just be at peace and be excited about the fact that your wings are growing now, and whatever they are, if you can feel into it, but yeah, it's got to be a heart thing, not a head thing. And as I mentioned last week, the astrology thing is moving out of mental, masculine Aquarius. So many planets have now moved into Pisces, which is feminine and water and feeling based. So it's like, move away, stop trying to figure it all out, relax and be comfortable with what you are. And the other part that just comes up again, I just wanted to remind people, is because of the way Venus is uncomfortable in Pisces, if you're feeling mad at yourself or at your other females in your life, or feeling disappointed, that's part of this too. It's just this, oh, that isn't good enough, that isn't quite right, that feeling. And I've been feeling that too. I've been doing, as I mentioned before, a lot of healing around my motherhood and my sons. So the female matriarch part of me, I was feeling disappointed in her, having a lot of tears, and that's all fine.
So in Australia and New Zealand's got back into stage 3 lockdown. So maybe this is a way to wake them up, because there seem to be a lot smaller minority of woke people in New Zealand, because they quite like their prime minister over there, even though we know she's a Freemason, and some people even question whether she's a female and that whether that pregnancy was real or not. I make no comment on that. And Victoria, which has had the worst problems with their premier, he wants to run lockdown through to December. And so people are getting really loud down there now, really loud. There was a federal politician, Christian Porter, who has been accused of rape. And the reaction to that has been really fascinating. Like, there have been people just poo-pooing the girl that spoke about it. Then, of course, there's all the people that beat up the person who poo-pooed the girl. And then the Prime Minister is now standing beside him. So that really, paints him with the same tar. So it's just an interesting process rolling this out. He swears blind that, it wasn't non-consensual. So we'll see. Oh, I think it was because, no, see, I haven't done my homework on this, but I think it was that she had, gone to an office party and then ended up in an office with him. And that you don't go there unless you're expecting everything, right? So it's the same old conversation about, at what point is a woman allowed to say no? Because once you walk through the empty office door, does that mean you're not allowed to say no anymore? It's just an old conversation that's gone around the block. Next thing they'll be saying, well, she was wearing a skirt, so she asked for it. It's just all this kind of stuff. Not that they said that, but I'm just using that as an example of the kind of things that often get thrown about. So we'll continue watching that. And one thing internationally I thought was fascinating, it was shortly after last week's recording, in Saudi Arabia, the capital Riyadh, I think it is how it's pronounced, there was a missile attack. And I've got the footage here of the missiles going over and being intercepted and blown up in the sky above the capital. A bit scary. in Saudi Arabia. So that's something we need to investigate a little further as well.
I saw a short clip of Biden, and they were asking him about the various states that have opened back up to business, and he blah, blah, blah on, or, whoever Biden is. And then he said, we need to avoid Neanderthal thinking, and that means you can just take off the mask.
Oh dear.
So, I think we've got some actors,
maybe,
and some people who are still real deep state, and they're going to take it really far. So even as many as possible, we still have that 5%.
We'll wake up.
Yeah. But because it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
And meanwhile, in Australia, with regards to these big Vs, there was a media channel that did a survey and found that 75% of people would refuse to take it. So that's interesting. And there's also the guy in South Australia who found in his work that they decided to, it's an American company that's working here in Australia, decided to make the tests mandatory every day. And he refused to take it, and so he got fired. And then he got a lawyer onto the job who came back with a letter to send them saying, okay, as according to the Human Biosecurity Act, you need to be able to present the biosecurity control that applies to this one man every day. You need a new control that shows that he is suspicious of being sick, and that's why he needs to be tested. Otherwise, you've got no reason to test him, and nor have you got any reason to put a mask on him. And they backed down. They removed the rules from their company so that there was no longer testing, mandatory testing or masks. However, they still haven't given the guy his job back. And so he's got a little bit more of a fight. But it's really interesting that there's lots of different ways. That's in Australia. In each country, there will be different legal terms, but it's definitely worth looking into if you find that rules ramp up rather than drop down like they have done in those US states, to make sure you've got all the legal terms that you can be armed with to go about keep your freedom.
In another sort of looking at the negative guys are starting to look bad. The governor of my state, California, there's this huge recall thing going around that looks like it's going to go very well.
Somebody really interesting who's going to stand for the California governor?
Right, the guy Richard Grenell.
Richard Grenell was the acting director of national intelligence when Trump was in power.
Right. He'd be a good governor. I would vote for him.
Yeah.
And he's openly gay, which is
that'll please the lefties.
Yes, right. There we go. And another governor who's in trouble is this Cuomo guy. And there's a whole lot of sexual allegations on him, all this, but he's the guy, of course, who sent all the elderly patients from the hospitals into the nursing homes, and so many died, and he's in a scandal because he tried to cover it up. And his quote was like, who cares where they died? They died. It was like, dude.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's got a lot of karma against him, hasn't he, really?
Right. And there's a bill, I believe, in the state to take away his emergency powers. So he can't mandate masks or mandate businesses and all of that. So, God, can we do that in my state,
Mind you, one of my friends over in New York said that even if you took away the mandate, there are still people doing the peer pressure stuff. There are a lot of people still bashing someone else for not wearing a mask or that kind of thing. So it's still a mindset that needs to be changed over there as well, not just taking away his powers.
Amazing how quick they got that in there.
Mm-hmm.
So to back up, I was not raised Christian, and I had some experiences in my childhood that made me go, to it. And I have had negative reactions to it. It's like, oh, can you pray for me? All over, somebody's tweeting, my mom is having surgery. Everybody pray for her. And I would just go, and then talking to people, our friend Catherine said, I pray all the time. It's just meditation. You may want to look at why you're having such a negative reaction to that. And I realized it was my Christian stuff because of the church and my part in it and blah, 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 blah. And so I've been about a couple of books. One is more focusing on Jesus and the Egyptian wisdom teachings. That's the seventh seal. The other is, I can't remember the name of it, but it's more the female wisdom. It's Isis, Mary Magdalene, and that aspect of it. So I'm looking into that and becoming more open to the teachings. And reading the seventh seal, I was totally shocked when the guy wrote that one of the other beings who embraced or channeled the Christ consciousness was Osiris, who's my oversoul. And so I thought, if my oversoul can embrace you, I mean, hey, Jesus, can you just like come be here? And 2 nights in a row, and I was still pretty gooey at the time, Jesus came. I was so excited. I've never connected with Jesus before. I've channeled Katumi and Saint Germain, but not Jesus. And the presence was like safety and unconditional love and great gentleness and a beautiful smile. And I just like, oh, this is nice. I could be here with you forever. It was so lovely. And the same the next night. And the message I got, oh God, can I remember it, is it's really close. You're feeling home more, so there's a call toward home. And that's because the veil has thinned so much. And that's what I was saying. I just don't want to be here anymore. Can you take me home? It's like, not yet. We're almost there. It's so close. The transformation, the new earth, whatever it is. So it was good news. So when he was telling me about who he is to our planet, and I got the sense it was even bigger, like the whole solar system or even more. And it's like the creator being, if you have God as the whole universe, and then you've got individual
little galaxies,
that has a unique aspect that is as it's like the raw material, where they describe it as the logos, which has been translated as word.
Yeah.
But that, like, he's the logos of our solar system, even, or just the planet. I don't know. It felt bigger. Would be, and God, so hard to describe. It's almost like you could say, if my body is the solar system, all the little cells, or the stars, are the planets, or the people, or it's, and people have used that analogy before. But the idea that he encompasses us. How could I not be in each of you?
Right.
Even if you were raised Hindu or whatever, right. Jewish.
Yeah. The essence, the essence of us.
Yeah.
Is all one.
Yeah.
And same creator. So then the creator is not necessarily source, but the creator of our part of the multiverse.
Yeah, but it's almost like, because it's a masculine kind of energy, and the feminine energy has to be the creator, because females give birth, that's a symbol. So I think it's like he with the Isis energy,
both,
which would be Osiris and Isis, as the origin, and Jesus and Mary Magdalene, that those two together, almost like he's the spark and she's the creator.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
It does, yeah. The spark is usually the dot in the middle, and then the feminine is everything else that exists around it. That's why they often use that symbol of a dot with a circle around it. It's the masculine and the feminine.
That makes sense. That's a very ancient symbol representing everything that is, as well as in astrology, the sun, which is interesting. Right. Yeah. I've just been reading about this stuff, so that was cool. And then you and I, we have our little serendipity team that we check in with, that are supporting us. And when we checked in before starting this recording,
you're like, joined in.
Hey. Bingo! I was like, yeah, what do you know? And you were like,
it did feel very soft and love, so much love, just like a baby blanket. Just
the best.
Beautiful.
The best. Yeah.
So do you think that Jesus would come through you and be channeled by you right now?
Okay. Well, yeah, evidently there's a message. By the way I channel, I don't go away. I just connect with other energies and communicate for them.
Okay.
From what they give me. And I don't hear words. I get feeling and pictures, and I translate it into words. So what's your message? You are all loved, and I'm in all of you. There's some way. Okay, let me see. I don't know how to translate that. There's some way that he is the Christ force energy, not specifically the man Jesus, but that has to do with the whole planet. It's like an overlighting power or archetype or whatever, creator power of for our whole planet. So even if you're not a Christian, like Sarah isn't a Christian, you still carry this light within you. And you can think of it as a seed buried in your heart in a secret chamber. It seems to be back and a little to the left. And you can connect with that visually. And it's a seed that needed to be abraded by lifetimes and lifetimes, like some real seeds are. So it's not like it's been hidden, but now it's coming out, and all of you have access to it. This is the return of Christ, is everybody tuning into their own Christ power, Christ seed. And he's showing me a triangle, which, would be
the Trinity.
The Trinity, and also that thing we've looked at, polarity is the bottom thing, and then the top is up here, and you can think of pyramids being triangles and all of these things. So a triangle visualization, put yourself inside a mental pyramid, if you don't happen to have one constructed in your living room, and visualize that seed, and tune in, because he says, because the veil is thinning so much, the same way Sarah and Annabelle were able to feel me unlike ever before, all of you can. And if you put your focus on it, and you know what those wings are, baby, you're not becoming butterflies, angels. That's
Can
all.
I ask a question?
Oh, well, let's see. Go ahead.
So
I get an answer.
The second coming of Christ being individuals waking up to it and tuning into it. There's been old prophecies of, like from the book of Enoch, of God coming in and sitting on the throne and making the big judgment. Can you explain that a little further?
So was an option for that. That's sort of something, just Sarah talking, I think, Annabelle, you mentioned before, that he's confirming that as these prophets looked into the future, there is a timeline where that might have been needed. And it's not a judgment in the same way of, oh, you're evil, you've done sin, I'm taking you out because you didn't obey me. It's more along the lines of something I just read in the seventh seal, which is, I will purify the planet with fire, and all things will be transmuted into their origin in order to begin the fifth. What Native Americans talk about, the fifth planet, the fifth,
like the fifth
life.
root race. Yeah.
Yes, there we go. So it's like that this is what they saw as a potential for the disasters and all those things, but that wasn't the path we chose, because they showed that path and so many people saw that as a potential, like everybody listening right here, and came in and brought so much light. And remember, okay, I'm going to let him talk. Each of you was hand chosen specifically by Christ to be here now, to carry his light and his energy and his power and his love and his acceptance. Each of you went through tests, and each of you has been seen by me and chosen by me. That's kind of nice. So it's time to realize who you really are. Really are angels. And, put your hand over your heart, use those visuals that I've given you, and feel the excitement of regaining your wings. You're loved. It's pretty sweet.
It is. It's funny, isn't it? When you like that energy, when I tuned into it, and like you said, so soft and loving and sweet, that you don't really picture someone who's enormously powerful,
Right.
You don't think of it that way. It's but probably because we've had so much conditioning through movies that someone who's powerful is likely to be dominant, beat everybody, makes the rules, you follow. That we've had that for so many thousands of years, that to have somebody who is soft and loving and draws you towards the goal rather than ruling and cracking the whip is a very, very different way of leading.
And so much wants to share that power. And it isn't the power over power, the
right.
patriarchal power. It's
right.
It's like, this is what's needed right now. This is what the planet needs in this last, year or whatever, few years, months, weeks, days, hours of transformation.
We're hoping.
Yeah, that we've got to be willing to step up and go, oh, I am this too. You've heard people say, you are God also, but there's sort of this like movement against that. It's like, oh yeah, that's the new age bullshit in order to avoid responsibility or whatever it was, but it's actually true. So
it's got to be taken in the right context, isn't it? This idea of I am God.
Right.
If you're a piece of God and the God is within you, that means that you are more powerful than you realize, and you can create the world around you and influence it a lot more. Even if you're worried about the word creating, you can definitely influence the world around you a lot more.
A couple of weeks back, you and I did a thing asking for supportive energy for Texas. And I have a client living there, and I think it was right around that day. She said it was like a week and a half ago, midweek, the weather lifted and they had 70-degree weather for 2 days.
Did it melt, that snow? Because we've had so many videos of it looking like fake snow that doesn't.
Oh, I didn't ask her. Yeah, I didn't ask her.
See if you can find out. Because those videos are so strange. This idea of having a block of ice that you can hold a flame to and it just blackens like it's burnt. It doesn't melt at all, or it doesn't drip.
Yeah. And on the mainstream media, they're talking about, the ice carries more than you think. And the guy went out with the blowtorch to try to clear his driveway. And you just can't do that. It's insulated and cold and thermal and blah, blah, blah. But I saw somebody, I saw somebody who had a wood burning stove. And they put the snow on top of it and it just sat there, didn't shake. Then they grabbed an ice cube from their freezer and put that on it, and it went and melted out. So that's a little weird. Definitely. I mean, I do get, there's some insulating qualities to snow. That's why igloos work and all that. But yeah, not that much.
I mean, ice should be colder than snow, right? Solid ice should be a lower temperature than snow.
I don't know. Seems it.
If you hold a flame to it, at some stage it's got to drip, and it wasn't dripping. It's very, very odd. Which means, does that mean it's not going to melt at all? What on earth did they dump? Or are those videos fake? But it's kind of weird. Like you'd expect one, maybe, or two, but not like a whole series of different videos showing that it's not melting. It's very
weird. Well, I saw some people who are skiers, talking about how when they put down artificial snow on slopes in years when we didn't get snow and stuff like that, that there's a weird smell to it, a weird quality to it. And it's very different for skiing on it. It's really hard. It's kind of sticky. I was like, ugh, that doesn't sound
maybe
lovely.
That's what it was, a snowmaker. Okay.
But a very big one.
Yeah. Up in the sky. It's very strange.
Oh man, how'd that giant snowblower get up there?
So if you are watching this, feel free to comment below and just say hi. Please just say hi. Because the idea that we've had one view when both of us have watched the same video, and I know we're not the only people that watch this, it would be nice to hear from you. You can always do that. And you can always support us too through PayPal. I always put the link for that in the description. Who knows?
Oh, well, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
We are ascending. Bye, everybody.
Bye.